I gave my parents $800 a week for a year. They lied about being sick to get more money, used me like an ATM, took my sister on a secret vacation while I struggled, and my girlfriend finally snapped and attacked her. Before we dive into this intense story, we have a small favor to ask. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how far our stories reach. Thank you so much. Now let's dive in. So let's start with the basics. I'm 24 years old. My name is Kieran, and I come from what you might call a functional family. On the surface, anyway. We weren't the type to scream at each other every night. There were no broken plates, no explosive fights. No, the damage in my family was more subtle, like a quiet poison that seeped into every interaction. It was favoritism, plain and simple. I have an older brother, Lucian. He's 27. If you ask my parents, he's basically a modern-day saint walking among us. Lucian could get away with anything. Slacked off in school? He's just a free spirit. Broke something expensive? It was an accident. Failed to get a job and mooched off my parents for years? He's just taking time to find himself. Meanwhile, I was expected to be the responsible one. Good grades, just expected, never celebrated, got my first job at 16. I was encouraged to help out by covering Lucian's expenses. Got into a great college? Barely a reaction. Lucian took one online course, dropped out halfway through, and my parents threw him a whole congratulatory dinner. For a long time, I convinced myself that I was just being bitter. That maybe I was overthinking things. But the older I got, the clearer it became. Lucian was the golden child, and I was just there. Still, I played along. I did what was expected of me. I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I worked hard, saved up, and moved out the second I could. I got a solid job in Ravenshore, a bustling city where I could finally have a life of my own. I got an apartment, decorated it exactly how I wanted, and finally, for the first time in my life, felt like I was my own person. But even after moving out, the favoritism never stopped. Every time I visited, my mother would guilt trip me. Why don't you call more? Why don't you spend more time with your family? But when I did visit, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Lucian always took the spotlight. I was just there, a guest, the unseen son. So why did I take them on vacation? Good question. I guess deep down I still hoped things could change. That if I did something big, something generous, they'd finally see me. That maybe for once they'd appreciate me. Spoiler alert, they didn't. I had been saving up for a while. Nothing crazy, but enough for something special. A week-long family vacation at Azure Bay Resort, a beachfront paradise with everything included. Gourmet food, luxury suites, beautiful ocean views, flights, paid, hotel, paid, activities, paid. I didn't even ask them to chip in. This was my treat. When I told my parents, my mother clasped her hands together and gasped. "That's so thoughtful, Kieran." I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the moment. Maybe this time would be different. Then she turned to Lucian. "Oh, Lucian, you really deserve a break." Not we deserve a break. Not you deserve a break, Kieran. No, Lucian. I should have seen the warning signs right then, but I swallowed the frustration, forced a smile, and told myself to let it go. It was just a slip of the tongue, right? Maybe this trip really would be different. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. From the moment we arrived, things started to unravel. At check-in, my parents fussed over Lucian. "Oh, let's make sure Lucian gets a nice room." "Lucian, do you like this one? We can ask if they have something better." I should have walked away right then, but I let it slide. Lucian, of course, picked the largest oceanfront suite with a private balcony. I didn't say anything. I didn't care about the room. Then my mom turned to me, her voice sweet like poisoned honey. "So, honey, we were thinking, since Lucian needs more space to relax, maybe you could take the couch in the living area, just for a few nights?" I blinked. "What?" "Well, Lucian's suite connects to ours, and we don't want to disturb him. You know he's been so stressed lately." I stared at her, waiting for the joke, the punchline. It never came. "No," I said flatly. "I'm not sleeping on the couch." My dad sighed, rubbing his temples like I was the difficult one. "Come on, Kieran, don't be selfish. It's just a couch." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "There are extra rooms available. Why don't we just book another one?" "Oh, don't be ridiculous," my mom said, waving a hand. "There's no need to waste money like that." "Waste money? I paid for this whole trip." Lucian, who had been quiet up until now, finally chimed in, lounging back on the couch like he owned the place. "Dude, stop being so dramatic. It's just a couple of nights." I clenched my jaw. "I paid for a room. I'm not sleeping on a couch." And then my mom dropped the real bombshell. "Well, there's always the car." I laughed, actually laughed, because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "The car?" I repeated. "You want me to sleep in the rental car?" Well, it's spacious, and it's not like it'll be that bad, she said lightly. We just don't want to make Lucian uncomfortable. I looked at my dad, expecting, hoping for him to step in. He just nodded. It's not the end of the world, son. Lucian smirked. Yeah, bro, don't be so dramatic. And that's when something inside me snapped. It wasn't rage. It was colder than that, more like clarity. A sudden, overwhelming realization. This will never change. No matter what I do, no matter how much I give, no matter how hard I try, I will always be second place, and I was done. I took a slow, deep breath, forced my face into a neutral expression. All right, I said quietly. You want me to sleep in the car? My mother beamed, thinking she had won. Oh, honey, it's just for a few nights. I smiled back at her. A real smile, the kind that should have set off alarm bells. Yeah, I said. I'll handle it. Then I picked up my bag and walked out. But I didn't go to the car. I went straight to the front desk, and I was about to make a decision that would change everything. I walked up to the front desk, my heart pounding, not with regret, but with satisfaction. The receptionist, a young woman named Delphine, looked up and gave me a polite smile. Good evening, sir. How can I assist you? I leaned on the counter, still smiling. I'd like to make a reservation. She tilted her head. For another room? No, I said, for the entire floor. Her eyes widened slightly. Sir, that's quite... I pulled out my credit card and set it on the counter. That won't be a problem. She hesitated. Are you sure you want to book every available room? Every last one. She tapped a few keys on her computer, then nodded. We do have availability for that. Then book it. A few more clicks, a receipt printed, and just like that, the floor was mine. I grabbed the key cards and made my way back to the suite. When I walked into the room, my parents were already getting comfortable, stretching out in the luxury that I had paid for. Lucian sprawled on the couch, flipping through the TV channels like he owned the place. My mother looked up, completely oblivious. Oh, honey, did you settle in the car? I smiled and tossed a key card onto the table. Actually, I said, I won't have to. Lucian frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I crossed my arms. Because I just booked the entire floor. Silence. My mom let out a nervous little laugh. Oh, sweetie, don't be silly. I pulled out the receipt and placed it in front of them. They stared at it. Lucian snatched it up, scanning the numbers, his face going pale. My mom blinked rapidly. But why would you? Well, I said, since you guys wanted me to give up my space, I figured why not? Now I've got plenty of space, and guess what? I grinned at Lucian. Now you don't have a room. Lucian shot up from the couch. Dude, what the hell? My mom clutched her chest. This isn't funny, Kieran. I tilted my head. Neither was asking me to sleep in a car. Lucian's smirk faded. You're kidding, right? I turned to the hotel manager who had just walked in. Excuse me, can you clarify something for my family? The manager cleared his throat. Sir, as of now, all rooms on this floor are under Mr. Kieran's name. If you were not included in his reservation, I'm afraid you'll have to vacate. Lucian's face turned red. This is bullshit, he snapped. You can't just kick us out? Oh, but I can, I said, smiling. You said I was overreacting about sleeping in a car, so now it's your turn to find a place to stay. My father sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. This is ridiculous, Kieran. You made your point. Now let's stop playing games and... I cut him off. No! My mom's voice turned desperate. Sweetheart, we're family. You can't do this to us. I smiled. Funny, that's exactly what I was thinking when you told me to go sleep in a car. Lucian exploded. You petty little... The hotel manager stepped between us. Sir, I'll have to ask you to leave immediately. Lucian clenched his fists, looking like he wanted to swing. I took a step forward. Try it. His eyes flickered, weighing the risk. He stepped back. I turned to the hotel manager. Escort them out. Lucian cursed under his breath as security forced them out of my suite. An hour later, I was lounging in my luxury suite, eating lobster and steak, scrolling through my phone. The view from the penthouse was breathtaking. City lights stretching out for miles, the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. Then, just as I expected, my phone started blowing up. Mom, you've made your point. Now stop being childish and let us back in. Dad, this is ridiculous. You're going to regret this when you calm down. Lucian, you're selfish as F asterisk asterisk. Asterisk. I tossed my phone onto the table, took another bite of my steak and leaned back. Let them scream into the void. I wasn't playing their game anymore, but just as I was about to pour myself a glass of wine, I heard something, shouting. At first I ignored it, assuming it was just guests at the bar downstairs, but then it got louder, so loud I could hear it through the walls. I sighed and got up, walking over to my suite's private balcony. I slid the glass door open and leaned over the railing. and that's when I saw them. My parents and Lucian were in the lobby, causing a full-blown scene. From my view above, I could see hotel staff scrambling to contain the chaos. Other guests were staring, some even pulling out their phones to record. My mom was in full hysterics, hands waving wildly as she screamed at the concierge. My dad had his arms crossed, his face red with anger, yelling at a poor security guard. And Lucian was shoving one of the hotel workers. "You can't just kick us out," he roared. "We're guests. Do you even know who we are?" The worker, a young guy in a crisp uniform, held his ground. "Sir, your reservation was under Mr. Kieran's name. You are no longer authorized to be here." Lucian lost it. He grabbed the guy's name tag and ripped it off his chest. "You're gonna regret this, you little shh." Before he could finish, 2 security guards stepped in. "Sir, you need to leave now." Meanwhile, my mom was clutching the concierge desk like it was a lifeline, sobbing theatrically. "You can't do this to us," she cried. "My son is just throwing a tantrum. He's not in his right mind. We are his family." The hotel manager, looking like he had exactly 0 patience left, gave her a polite but firm stare. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down." My dad slammed his fist on the desk. "This is bulls asterisk asterisk asterisk. My son paid for this hotel. That means we have rights." The concierge remained calm. "Sir, Mr. Kieran booked the rooms under his name. As per our policy, he has full control over the reservation. If he no longer wishes to accommodate you, that is his decision." Lucian, still raging, turned and kicked a luggage cart so hard it crashed into a marble column. The entire lobby fell silent. That was it. The hotel manager pulled out a radio and spoke in a clipped voice. "Security, escort them off the premises immediately. If they refuse to leave, we'll call the police." I almost choked on my wine. They were actually about to get dragged out. I watched from above as 3 security guards surrounded them. Lucian, now panicking, looked at my parents for help. My mom grabbed onto my dad's arm. "We can't just leave! We have nowhere to go!" My dad, now realizing they had lost, glared up at my suite. He knew I was watching. He knew I could end this with a single call. For a split second, I saw desperation in his eyes, but I just lifted my wine glass, smiled, and raised it in a toast, his face twisted with rage. That's when Lucian snapped. He turned back to security. "You guys are a bunch of—" Before he could finish, he was grabbed by both arms. "Sir, you're trespassing," one guard said. "We're removing you now." Lucian tried to fight, but he was outnumbered. My mom screamed. My dad shouted something about lawyers, but it was too late. Security dragged them out of the hotel, kicking and screaming. Guests were filming. People were laughing. The manager shook his head and went back to his work like this was just another Tuesday. And me? I took another sip of my wine and walked back inside. That night, my phone exploded with texts. "Mom, I can't believe you humiliated us like that. You've gone too far." "Dad, you just threw your own family onto the streets. You are heartless." "Lucian, you're dead to me. You ungrateful piece of S asterisk asterisk. Hope you enjoy being alone. Asterisk." I read them all, took a deep breath, and blocked their numbers. Then I called the hotel reception. "Hi, this is Mr. Kieran from the penthouse suite." "Yes, sir. How can we assist you?" "If my family tries to return," I said, "I want every single one of them banned from the property." A pause, then a chuckled response. "Consider it done, sir." I smiled. For the first time in years, I had peace, and I was never giving it up again. Comments and likes section. "What do you think? Did Kieran go too far, or was this long overdue? Would you have cut them off completely or given them one last chance? Should family always be forgiven, or do some betrayals cross the line? Drop your thoughts below. Like this if you think Kieran did the right thing. Comment karma if you think Lucian got exactly what he deserved. Reply blocked if you would have cut them off too.